Marxist ideology is what the content will be, no matter how much you try to put.
Everybody's told how to think through the media.
Oh, we need to have sex education for 6th graders. Now it's 4th graders. Now it's 2nd graders.
They shit and piss in a litter box.
Horace Mann, who started the public school system in the United States 200 years ago, had a vision for all this. But
long-winded there, but my question is, have you seen a rise in homeschooling since COVID, since 2020?
Well, first, let's just say that all that stuff that's in the public schools is in there intentionally. And back Horace Mann, who started the public school system in the United States 200 years ago, had a vision for all this, but he knew he couldn't introduce it into a Christian nation right away. And so he knew that he had to plant the seeds and let it grow. And so public school has been wildly successful in the United States based on what its framers had hoped that it would accomplish. So pre-COVID numbers, there's, knowing an exact number of homeschoolers is difficult, but about 2 million homeschoolers in the United States pre-COVID. During COVID, 6 to 8 million was kind of the high point of parents who are intentionally educating their kids, picking out curriculum. Not talking about the kids who are doing public school at home, but intentionally homeschooling their kids. And then that's dropped down to about 4 million, 3.5 to 5 million based on some different numbers that I've seen. So it's effectively almost doubled, or maybe a little bit more than that.
Wow.
Post-COVID. So I've seen some research that says 1 out of 8 kids of the current generation will be homeschooled at least 1 year. And so it's definitely becoming an option that families are picking. Maybe they homeschool in elementary school, but send their kids to a Catholic school for middle school and public school for high school. So it's just going to be much more ubiquitous when people are going to be selecting their educational options. But obviously we believe homeschooling the whole way through high school, that parents can do it and do it well.
It seems like it's exploded. And just to elaborate, it's just like the white privilege stuff. Like, I think it's important to learn about everything that happened with slavery and the mistakes that we made as a country and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't want my son or daughter to feel guilty for being a Caucasian straight male or a Caucasian straight female. And I've brought on all kinds of people to talk about this, and wasn't necessarily the focus of the interview, but I brought on this guy, Chris Beck, who was the first, maybe the only, I don't know, but the first transgender Navy SEAL. And I wanted to get inside of his mind and see, how does this happen? Like, I just wanted a snapshot into his mind. And throughout his conversation, he talked about love bombing. Are you guys familiar with this?
No.
So they basically love bomb you into they basically just fill you with love and da-da-da-da-da. And everybody's looking for acceptance into something. And so they overdo it and that's what they call it. They call it love bombing and into that culture.
Yeah.
And then if you leave, then it's like
You're a pariah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And he went on to talk about how that happens in schools and he's transitioned back. Mm-hmm. And so that it was a fascinating conversation, one of my best interviews ever. But that all these things are just in my head, and then man, I could go off on tangents all day, but I mean, kids these days can't read, that their math skills are shot, their reading's shot, they have no physical education, they don't know how to balance a checkbook, they have no financial skills, they don't know how to apply for a job, they have no confidence. I mean, I see this through the youth everywhere I go. I mean, I brought it up several times. I go to Home Depot, or I go to any home improvement center, department store, restaurant, and I get a limp-wristed handshake. I get a kid who has zero confidence and is staring at his shoes when I ask him where's the doorknob section, or you know what I mean? And it's they don't know how to act. And I'm like, man, what? I know a lot of that goes off on parenting as well, but I mean, it's it's atrocious out there.
Well, for 5 generations, our parents have went to public school. Right before the 1920s, hardly anybody did. And so each generation of parents bought into a little bit more of what I call the box of education. It's funded by distributed income. It's socialist in nature. So, of course, Marxist ideology is what the content will be, no matter how much you try to put school prayer or patriotism or anything else into it, because the box itself, the public education, is Marxist. And so every generation we've accepted since the first universal socialist program, public school, we've accepted each generation another form of socialism. So whether it was socialized housing or Johnson's Great Society or now healthcare, you're old enough to remember when people paid their own doctor bills and had insurance, not healthcare from the government. So, and then we got to the point where now parents are like, I'm not in charge of their education, of their housing, of their food, because we're on food stamps and that's all subsidized by the government. And so now, like, I don't even know what gender they're supposed to be. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
And so you had parents actually saying, because of the love bombing, so now I know what you're referring to, I'll love you no matter what you do. And that, of course, they say that's the Christian way of doing things. But they forget that even though God is love, love isn't God, and that there's 4 kinds of love talked about in the scriptures. So it's a lot of confusion because each generation accepted something the previous one wouldn't have. Until now we're at the point where we fought against all this subsidization for the last 30 years, and now they want to subsidize homeschooling. And we're like, with the shekels come the shackles. We don't want civil government influencing our children's minds. Stay away. And people don't recognize that that's what happened, that every new plan with the dollars attached made it so a woman like me, a woman like your wife, we don't need our husbands anymore. We have full-time daycare. And if we're worried about our children being good citizens, the civil government will be sure to control their minds.
Yeah, that's another thing. I just don't see very many critical thinkers out there or free thinkers anymore. Everybody's told how to think through the media, or told how to think very obviously through the universities out there, and now into like little kids. I mean, even the patriotism. I mean, I don't have kids in school yet, but it seems like the Pledge of Allegiance has been yanked out. I went to public school. I did 1 year of homeschooling. It was the fastest. Like, I learned the fastest there. I excelled the fastest there, and probably a quarter of the time that I was in public education that year. I think it was 6th grade. But I mean, I remember going to school, and like election day was like a big day. It was a big day. Everybody's talking about it. It wasn't divisive. It was like, yeah, we get out. That's what we do as Americans. We get out. We vote for what we believe in. And now, like, I don't see any of that stuff happening anymore.
And as Americans, we think that we're the center of the universe and that, like, these things have never happened anywhere else. Like, again, our public education system was imported from Prussia. Now, most people probably don't even know what Prussia is.
I don't.
Germany, pre-World War I. Our education was based on the same education system that initiated World War I. They had the same sexual revolution back then because they could see that it would affect the children and stuff. But then they saw that it was destroying their society. And that's why part of the reason why Hitler killed the gays and those type of things, because they had put this sexual idea inside their kids so that the state could control them. But then when they realized that you wouldn't be able to keep your civilization going, I mean, we have a birth rate problem here in the United States once these Marxist ideas get inside of our children's head, that wasn't going to be, worthwhile. And so, again, this is the sexual stuff, is really perverted now, but it's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. And they've done this before in other countries, and it's gone terribly awry. And so that's why,
How were they doing it back then? I mean, because these gender surgeries are relatively,
sexual.
Within the past 10 years. So how were they sexually perverting the public schools back in World War I?
Yeah, I mean, not here in the United States, but in other countries, they're doing the same thing. Oh, we need to have sex education for 6th graders. Now it's 4th graders. Now it's 2nd graders. In Minnesota, they just passed a law where they want to teach 3rd graders how to implement they/them pronouns here in the United States today. So it's the same things that they're doing here in the United States. The same arguments. Hey, we need to expecting these kids to understand, their sexuality and things like that. But the kids' minds aren't developed for that. And so they develop perverted mindsets and they want to fit in or whatnot or be different. And so, these playbooks that they've used in the U.S. for the last 20 years isn't something that hasn't been tried before.
It's not even just genders now.
Yeah.
In Cookeville, Tennessee, I think it was Cookeville, they had somebody, of course, from California, go figure, right? Oh, another one from California moving to Tennessee for whatever the hell reason, I don't know. You don't fit here if you think like this. But they bring their kid to school in a crate and call it a furry. I think it's called a furry. I can't remember what it's called. A furry. They shit and piss in a litter box. And like all the rest of the kids, it's like how is that not a disruption? Cookeville said they didn't stand for it. They were like, well, we're going to sue the school. And they're like, cool, you came from California. You can go right the fuck back to California where you belong. We don't have furries in public schools here, but I get so pissed off.
It goes back to that CRT,
stuff,
the critical race theory ideas, right? If you're a white cis male or white cis female or whatever, a normal human being, right? You don't have any sort of privilege. And so you are automatically an oppressor. And so why you see this number of, just these astronomical number of people being LGBT identified is because they've been told they're oppressors their entire public school life. And if you're a white male, what's the only way to stop becoming an oppressor?
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.